YouTube, what's going on? Racing Chemical here. Welcome back to F1 2021 My Team Career Mode. We're here for round 3 in Monaco, my most hated track in all of F1 racing games. And even so, watching the race in reality is not that exciting, obviously, with minimal overtaking opportunities, cars having to get out of the way for blue flags. Besides the historical tradition of Monaco, it really is a lackluster and kind of pointless race, but I know they will never obviously remove it from the calendar. Nonetheless, we're going to go into qualifying here, and I'm still coming to grips with trying to adjust with the car, despite the fact that I think we've made a lot of development. So we've only had maybe 1 or 2 failures at this point in the season. So everything that we've been developing in R&D has actually been successfully completed, and we haven't had any issues, major issues with that. So we're going to get on this quali lap and show you guys what we can do. So later, as we begin another qualifying lap, our first lap was bad. I believe we actually went into the wall, suffered a little bit of wing damage, had to come back in. So we're back out here for our second lap. Now, we currently have a 116. We can definitely improve on that. I'm not good at Monaco at all. I think my best overall is like a 112 something. So do not expect me to get below a 112 or even the 110s. I wish I could ever do that. So like I said, coming to grips with the car. Performance-wise, I feel like we have the power that we need for the most part, unless we're going down a really long straight. Downforce, it's hit and miss. Sometimes I feel like it's there and it's pretty smooth, and other times I feel like I really have to kind of fight the car to get it to turn in the way I want. So it's hit or miss depending on the track. In Monaco, I definitely felt as if the lack of overall raw performance compared to some of the better cars on the grid was definitely apparent. So I really had to kind of baby this thing around and not obviously take it too aggressive. Of course, with Monaco, average speeds, at least for miles per hour, I think is what, 93 or something like that. So it's not like you're going to be absolutely flying around here, but still I felt like my pace was not where it could be and where it has been in previous F1 games. So nonetheless, we are up a couple of tenths. It looks like we hit the wall there. I don't recall if we actually did. We're up a couple of tenths here, and we're going to cross the line with a 112.981. So we did improve from our best time, up by about 0.3 of a second. And I think that is what we'll end up finishing here for this qualifying session. So with that being said and done, that does end our qualifying session. I'm not sure exactly where we're actually going to be for Sunday's race, because I think some teams are going to end up having some grid drop penalties. So we'll see what happens. We'll take it to David Crofty for Sunday's race in Monaco.
Formula 1 returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino, first opened in 1863. And of course, a certain road race, first held here in 1929. There's no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco then. It's not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo, and although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Daniel Ricciardo, and Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Gasly, and Fernando Alonso, Mick Schumacher, Stroll, Esteban Ocon, and Tsunoda, Edwards, Mazepin, Sebastian Vettel, and Luca Ghiotto, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Raikkonen. They've taken a grid penalty, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So as you guys can see, P15 is where we will be starting for today's race instead of P21, and I am more than happy with that because a couple of drivers obviously had grid drop penalties. So we opted to go for the 2-stop strategy here. I don't know what the AI will do in this game compared to F1 2020. They were pretty predictable. They always usually did a 2-stopper, which meant that the 1-stop in F1 2020 was extremely overpowered. But in this year's game, the AI under strategies is a little bit more unpredictable, which I actually kind of like. So I decided to try something different here. I opted in for the 2-stop, and we're going to go medium, softs. Make sure we have at least 2 kilograms extra of fuel on board and see how that does for us. I hate Monaco. I really do not like this circuit at all. It's a boring race to watch on television. It's not fun for me to actually play via the game, and I'm sure some other gamers out there can also relate with me and fans in regards to that. Nonetheless, though, P15 2-stop strategy. Let's see what we can do as we head out to our formation lap, and then we'll be right back on the grid for the start of the Monaco Grand Prix. So waiting for the rest of the grid to form back up. We have to get an absolutely good start here in order to ensure that we're not going to lose any positions. Waiting for 5 red lights. We have Mazepin to the side of us, Sebastian Vettel behind him, and we are officially underway. It's an absolutely horrendous start for us. We end up getting passed by Sebastian Vettel and Nikita Mazepin. The Aston Martin and the Haas fly right by us, and we're already down 2 positions going into turn 1 from P15 down to P17. Despite that, though, we still have a chance to get those positions back, especially because we know how the cars are going to bunch up coming down this hill. So we still have a chance, and this is usually a spot where I will try to overtake against the AI, not against actual players, but the AI, because they're a little bit more predictable. I'm going to send it down to the inside, and we get the move done with minimal contact, and we're actually able to get it done to get back up into P15. There's a yellow flag. I think there may have been a minor collision. We don't have any damage that I know of, and I don't think anybody else had any damage. So we get the move, gain our positions back, and now we are chasing the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda ahead of us, and we're going to continue onwards here with this Monaco Grand Prix. So fast forwarding into the race at lap 12 out of 39 here, some drivers have already come into pit, and I'm not sure what the AI strategies are going to be. I think it's a little bit more diverse in this year's game compared to F1 2020, so I really have no idea what anybody else was intending to do. Nonetheless, we're actually up into P10, and most of that is just because a couple of drivers came into pit early, and I'm assuming it's probably some of the drivers that maybe started off on the softs that were ahead of us. Of course, wasn't really paying attention to see where everybody else was starting as far as their tire compounds were concerned, especially if they were in the top 10. That's not a position we're really going to be able to fight for. Despite the fact that we're sitting P10 now, this is not a result that we'll probably be able to keep for the majority of the race. Like I said, I opted for the 2-stop, but as you can see, our tire wear is not terrible, only 21 to 24% tops, and we're only on lap 12, so we still have a lot of tire life here. And I'm at this point in the race, I'm starting to decide if maybe just doing the 1-stop will actually be more beneficial to us as opposed to coming in and wasting time doing a 2-stopper. Nonetheless, for P12, we're going to see what we can do here as we extend later into this race. 7 laps later, at lap 19, we are still P10, and this is just kind of the deal with Monaco. I mean, the racing is not exciting, and typically once the field gets spread out, you stay in that position that you're in until people start to come in for pit stops, or if there's a safety car or something like that. It's really boring, and you just kind of feel yourself just kind of falling asleep sometimes, not literally, but just, it's very monotonous. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of racing, not a whole lot of overtaking opportunities, so you're kind of just making sure that you don't obviously send your car into the wall or take any damage, and you're just staying focused to make sure that you prevent that from happening. Outside of that, though, you don't necessarily really feel like you're racing. It kind of just feels like everybody's on a time attack mode, so to speak. So lap 19, we still haven't come into pit. As you can see, the highest tire wear percentage we have, I think, is 38% on the right, or excuse me, on the left rear. And other than that, we can still push these tires closer to at least 60% before we probably start to notice a serious lack of performance and grip. And of course, here at Monaco, because it's a very narrow track, you don't want to extend your stint too long to the point where you have no grip at all, and even the slightest error could end up sending you into the wall and forcing you to have a DNF. So lap 20 here, Carlos Sainz is the next driver up the road, 12.6 seconds ahead in that Ferrari. We're not really going to be able to catch him at all. We just don't have the performance and the downforce to do it at this point in the season. But nonetheless, we've still been able to keep P9, and at this point, This is probably when I should have pitted, but I opted to actually stay out because, again, I felt like the car was still drivable. I didn't feel like I was losing too much grip. I still felt like I was running pretty consistent times until I hit the wall right there. And then Fernando Alonso comes in and hits us on the rear, and we're actually going to get a 5-second penalty for that collision, despite the fact that we didn't actually hit Alonso. He ran into us. So that is still a big issue in this game. That's really, really annoying. There's still quite a bit of bugs and things that I hope they obviously get fixed before the end of the year. That was really, really disappointing that we ended up getting a 5-second penalty for that. Me hitting the wall was one thing, but getting a time penalty for Fernando Alonso running into the back of us and we didn't actually collide with him is another. So we had to deal with that, but nonetheless, our race continued. So it's lap 26, and guess what? Eric Edwards in the Chemical Racing Formula 1 car still not come in for his first stop yet. I don't know what I was thinking. In fact, I wasn't thinking at all, because I promise you, it has been such a long time since I've actually done a full race at Monaco. When I say a full race, I mean even at 50%. I have not done a race at this distance for years at this point. I think 2 years. So I totally forgot about, in this game, what would have been a more beneficial strategy to do, especially to avoid running into any issues. I believe we are probably going to come in on this lap. Tire grip, as you can see, our tire percentage is at 52 on the left rear, 40s, and the right front is only at 32. Nonetheless, we're going to come in, and guess what? We get a speeding in the pit lane penalty, 5-second penalty as well. That was annoying. We're just getting the penalties. Granted, I thought I slowed down. For some reason, I just locked out at 39. I know where the line is. I definitely slowed down. It did not happen. So it is what it is. We're going to wait 5 seconds in our pit box. I believe they are going to change our front wing as well. I mean, the damage was very, very, very minor, but I figured, hey, let's go ahead and change it. And this is when I didn't realize the mistake I made until after the fact, and you'll start to eventually see blue flags starting to be waved. And I realized I waited way too long to pit, and I definitely should have pitted much earlier, probably 10 laps or so ago. But again, I was feeling confident with the car, at least, that we weren't losing so much grip and our times were consistent, and I felt there was no need to come in if I wasn't noticing a significant loss of downforce and traction with the car, and I wasn't up until I just pitted. So we're on the softs. We're going to run this till the end of the race. Obviously, we're going to be a lot faster than most of the guys that are still on the mediums, but a terrible mistake, because now the leaders have caught up and we're going to have to get out of the way for those blue flags. So effectively, I ruined my race at this point, and I was so mad at myself for not sticking to the original strategy of pitting when I was told to come in, as opposed to me staying out longer, thinking I can make up time, but I forgot it's Monaco and you're going to have to get out of the way for blue flags eventually. So 10 laps later, in lap 37, as you can see, we get into the wall there, and yeah, the tire grip on these softs are definitely starting to kick in a lot more. We're at the end of the race, and we're P20. Our race was officially nullified once we had to start getting out of the way for blue flags, because we never had an opportunity to try to really catch up to the cars in front of us. We have to get out of the way, then they eventually get out of the way, and then it just really stops any momentum you have, even if you are faster than the cars in front of you. And this is one thing that fans and drivers sometimes don't necessarily like about Monaco, is just the blue flags get in the way at the most inopportune times, and it really stops any potential overtaking opportunities, especially for back markers still fighting for some points. So that was quite frustrating. Like I said, haven't raced at Monaco in a while, and I just wasn't thinking at all in regards to my strategy, but it is what it is. We have one more lap to go after this, but I think this will actually be the final lap, because I'm pretty sure whoever is leading this race, which I don't know, it's either one of the two Mercedes or even Max Verstappen. Well, Max actually retired DNF, so it'd possibly be Sergio Perez and the other Red Bull. But nonetheless, this will effectively be our last lap of the race. As you can see, Lewis Hamilton does actually end up getting the win for Mercedes. So fortunately, we don't have to do another lap, and we're really not going to be able to improve at all. We're just trying to keep the car in one piece. We don't want to get a DNF at all, but very, very frustrating second half of the race, mainly because, like I said, we came in and we pit way too late. We should have pitted when we were supposed to. Nonetheless, it is a P20 for us, and that's all we can unfortunately do here for Monaco. So again, Lewis Hamilton with the win. My team is really boring in the first season, because you get very, very predictable winners. It's not until actually, I feel like, season 2, when some drivers start changing around and going to different teams, that obviously you start to get different race results. The car felt okay as I went longer in the race, which is why I didn't come into pit. But still, just me not thinking in regards to the pit strategy in general obviously ruined our race. But I'm feeling much more confident with the car, and especially with more upgrades coming in. I feel we're going to be very competitive towards the ending couple of rounds of the season. So we're still working through some things. I'm still, getting my setups together, but I really feel once we get halfway through the season and closer to the remaining third of it, we will be much more competitive and try to get back into the points. We've only had 1 points finish, and that was the first race in Bahrain. We had a 13th place finish in Spain, and then here a 20 place finish. It is what it is. Luca Giotto, I think, only ended up finishing maybe P17 or 18. I can't quite remember, but that is how round 3 is going to end for us. Round 4 we're going to be in Azerbaijan, another street circuit, but I actually like Azerbaijan, and it's probably one of my favorite tracks of all the F1 tracks. So I just need to get the right setup, and I feel we can be much more competitive. We're gonna have to make sure we have a lot of straight line speed, because we know the better cars like the Ferraris and McLarens, they're going to be able to fly past us in a straight line. So we're going to have to ensure that obviously we try to do the best we can to compete with those guys as well, and try to hopefully maybe get up into the points. I feel like if we really do everything right in our preparation, we can actually get into the points here for Azerbaijan in our 4th race. That's going to do it though. Appreciate you guys' love and support on the channel. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. But until next time, is Racing Chemical signing out. Hope you all have a great and fantastic day. See ya and goodbye.